docu-series about Sean Diddy Combs is making headlines for its never-before-seen footage of the music.
Well, I'm surprised by that.
In 50 months of
real goal was to story
somebody that'll work
for him to have that.
The silence finally snapped. And listen to this, the culture felt it instantly when 50 Cent finally spoke on his Diddy Netflix project centered around Sean Combs. The reckoning hit different, mainly because the timing made it land way heavier. For months straight, people were watching from the sidelines while rumors spun, old clips popped back up, and the conversations kept getting louder and louder. All that time, 50 never said a word. But that silence wasn't random. It felt strategic.
Docu-series about Sean Diddy Combs is making headlines for its never-before-seen footage of the music mogul in the days before his arrest.
How did you get that footage of Diddy?
I figured most journalists would not disclose this.
Watch this and think that you really hate Sean Combs.
Why would they be thinking that?
Because of the things that you post on Instagram,
Yeah,
because of the...
Look at this, and it's...
And when he finally spoke on the documentary, listen to this. The message came through loud and clear. This wasn't some rushed move or a quick clapback situation. This felt like something that had been cooking quietly behind the scenes. The way he explained it made people lean forward because he didn't sound playful or entertained at all. He sounded focused. That shift in tone instantly changed how people looked at the entire project. This wasn't presented like a troll moment or a petty social media shot. It felt more like a long-form declaration. What grabbed attention immediately was how 50 broke down the scope of it all. He wasn't chasing shock value for clicks. Instead, he stressed structure, receipts, timelines, and owning the narrative. And hold up, that alone shook the room. Because when someone known for jokes and pressure tactics suddenly moves with calm precision, you know something different is going on. He talked about power, influence, and how stories get shaped once someone reaches a certain level. That perspective made the documentary feel less like messy gossip and more like a full cultural examination. And trust me, the streets caught that instantly.
absolutely sure that these kinds of allegations that we've seen against him are true.
Well, I'm surprised by the allegations, as surprised as everyone else is. Like, I didn't make the allegations, I didn't tell people.
The title alone, The Reckoning, carried serious weight. It hinted at reflection, consequences, and a long overdue moment of truth without spelling anything out. And listen, that matters. 50 didn't jump out making outrageous claims in his comments. Instead, he zeroed in on why these conversations are happening right now and why audiences are suddenly demanding real depth and context. That approach forced fans to rethink everything they thought they already understood. Instead of asking what's about to drop next, people started asking what's been kept in the dark this whole time. And once that mental shift happens, hold up, there's no going back.
in 50 months of incarceration for Diddy. Now, when you subtract the 14 months of time served, that comes to 3 years.
The online reaction went crazy, but not with yelling. Listen to this. It was all analysis. People replayed his words, paused clips, and broke down every bit of his tone. That calm delivery made everything feel deliberate. He spoke on responsibility and storytelling and why giving the full picture matters more than chasing quick headlines. That hit a nerve, especially right now when short clips run the internet. The idea of a slow, controlled rollout felt powerful. This moment wasn't about dropping shock value. It was about setting the table. By finally speaking up, 50 shifted the documentary from pure speculation to clear purpose. You could feel the culture catch that immediately. The silence had built anticipation, and once it broke, it redirected all that energy. This wasn't just noise. Hold up, this was positioning. And once that position was set, the entire conversation leveled up.
Real goal was to storytell, and not everyone needed to have an allegation to be a part of this.
As the conversation widened, people started zeroing in on why 50 chose this exact moment. Because listen, timing is everything in situations like this. He talked about how public awareness has shifted and how audiences no longer accept surface-level stories. That point landed hard. People aren't impressed by headlines anymore. They want structure, context, and real receipts. By speaking to that head-on, 50 positioned himself alongside the audience's demand for clarity instead of chaos, and that alignment boosted his credibility fast. He also brought up creative control, making it clear this project was never about handing the narrative over to someone else. That detail mattered. Control shapes tone, focus, and direction. When a story involves powerful figures, control is the line between a fluff piece and a serious examination. The way he explained it felt intentional, not impulsive, and that's what made people take the project seriously, even the ones who were skeptical at first.
Somebody that'll work with us, whether they from this country or from another country. It could be somebody that has dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business of media.
And suddenly, the culture started revisiting old moments through a completely different lens. Old interviews, past statements, business moves, everything felt like it deserved a second look. Not because of fresh accusations, but because context changes how things hit. 50's comments weren't about accusing anyone, they were about questioning. And listen, questions travel way farther than claims ever do. That's exactly why the conversation stayed alive without burning itself out. Another detail people locked in on was how he framed his role, not as a judge, but as a storyteller. He talked about letting the material speak for itself, letting timelines line up, and letting viewers come to their own conclusions. That approach lowered the temperature while quietly raising the stakes. Because if a story can stand on its own, it doesn't need loud commentary. That level of confidence made people believe this documentary would lean on structure, not shock.
For him to have that complete, total control. You're my artist, you're my best friend.
You're writing a song for like 30 days.
The streets peeped how calculated his words were from the jump. No jokes, no trolling, no viral one-liners. That restraint felt intentional. When someone known for being loud suddenly moves quiet and precise, that signals seriousness. Fans caught that immediately. The conversation wasn't about beef anymore. It was about documentation. And documentation lasts longer than drama. At that point, the documentary stopped being discussed as just entertainment. It started getting framed as a cultural checkpoint, a moment where influence, power, and history get examined under a sharper lens. That shift raised the level of the entire discussion. The silence had already done its job. Breaking that silence gave everything direction. As reactions kept rolling in, the bigger implications became impossible to ignore. Because this wasn't just about one project, it was about how stories are told in this industry. 50's comments highlighted a growing demand for transparency, especially when it comes to figures who shaped eras and movements. People don't want mythology anymore. They want timelines, and that demand is changing how documentaries are received. The audience is smarter, louder, and more critical, and this moment reflected that evolution. The culture debated whether a project like this was necessary or long overdue. Some argued it was time for deeper examination. Others worried about legacies being reduced to controversy. That debate showed just how complex these moments really are. Legacies aren't one-dimensional, and telling a full story means holding achievements and conflicts in the same frame. The way 50 framed it suggested he understood that balance, which eased some critics while fueling even more curiosity. What really stood out was how he talked about responsibility. He didn't frame the documentary as revenge or rivalry. He framed it as documentation. That distinction matters. Documentation doesn't shout, it shows. And when something is shown clearly, it doesn't need narration to force conclusions. That approach signaled confidence in the material itself, not just the platform behind it. Fans also noticed how his comments avoided sensational language. No exaggerated claims, no dramatic threats, just a steady explanation of intent. That steadiness made the whole conversation feel grown, and the culture responded the same way. Memes gave way to real discussions. That kind of shift is rare, and it showed the weight of the moment. As people kept talking, one thing became obvious. The silence before the statement was part of the strategy. It allowed conversations to breathe. It let public interest build naturally and gave the moment time to mature. So when he finally spoke, the ground was already prepared. That's how influence works. Quiet until it matters, loud only when necessary. By this stage, anticipation wasn't driven by hype. It was driven by expectation, and expectation shapes reception. The culture now expects depth, clarity, and structure. That expectation will define how this documentary is judged, not by noise, by substance. In the end, 50 Cent breaking his silence didn't answer every question, it sharpened them. His comments reframed the documentary from rumor to intention, from speculation to structure. That reframing changed everything. The culture shifted from waiting for drama to preparing for discussion. That's a rare pivot, and it speaks to how carefully this moment was handled. This wasn't about tearing anyone down. It was about examining influence in full view. The way 50 spoke showed respect for the audience's intelligence and patience. No rushing, no forcing reactions, just letting the story land when it's ready. That patience separated this from quick-hit controversies and placed it in a longer timeline of cultural reflection. The reaction proved people are ready for more nuanced storytelling. They don't want extremes, they want clarity. They want history with context, and they want the space to decide what it means for themselves. That demand is reshaping media, and this project sits right in the middle of that shift. As the conversation keeps moving, one thing is undeniable. Silence can be louder than noise when it's used correctly. Breaking silence with purpose changes the entire frame. 50 didn't just speak, he reset the conversation, and once it's reset, it doesn't go back. If this breakdown kept you locked in and helped you see beyond the headlines, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive when the culture shifts again. This story isn't just about one documentary or one name. It's about how power, influence, and truth get examined when the spotlight moves. When silence breaks, real conversations start, and real conversations don't disappear overnight. The culture is changing, the audience is sharper, and people are paying closer attention to who controls the story and how it's told. If this breakdown gave you real insight and helped connect the dots, make sure you like and subscribe so you stay tapped in for the next move when the industry starts shifting again.